are no longer going to be just a Rust Belt city. We are going to be, as David Beach envisions, a green city on a blue lake. So I believe that this region will certainly repopulate at some point in time, and we're going to be looking for the new wave, new generation of people. They're young, professional, green, environmentally conscious, and they're going to see this as a viable alternative with a great cost of living and all the other amenities we have in this area. The mission of the Building Bridges Mural Program is to create community-based public art that fosters youth development and supports emerging artists. More than 30 students participating in creating this year's mural, which is located just around the river bend beneath the bridge at Heritage Park. The students learned a great deal about our local history and the Cuyahoga's heritage as they designed and created this impressive work.
On behalf of the Mayor of the City of Cleveland, Frank Jackson, I'd like to welcome everyone to our great city. It's particularly exciting for us to be here as we commemorate the unique birth of the Cuyahoga River at a site called Settlers Landing, where over 200 years ago, Moses Cleveland first arrived. So I think it's instructive that we're here today. Mayor could not be here today because of another commitment, but he wanted to participate in the celebration by really saying that he passes on his congratulations to all stakeholders, to all of us who have played a role in the environmental stewardship for the Cuyahoga River recovery. CSO is probably the next big frontier for us, combined sewer overflow. And I think it's also instructive that we're here today. As I look over to my right, there's a brown brick building over there that is something we refer to as the Superior West 11th Street Pump Station. And during significant rainfall events, that station will overflow to the environment. And we are spending our next $2 billion on a strategy that will allow us to minimize the number of times a year that structures like this overflow to the environment. So again, it's instructive that we're here today. It's instructive that while we've come a long way and made a lot of progress, there is much work to be done. So again, on behalf of the mayor, I congratulate everyone, including the amazing residents of Northeast Ohio, for their dedication to our city, our region, and this river. Thank you.
And most of the sewers in this country, folks, that were built in the early 70s, and that was 75% federal, 25% local. And that turned off in 1985, and then we went to the state revolving loan funds. And I have to say, folks, that since I've been to the Congress, it's been very, very difficult to get that money that we need in the state revolving loan fund. But you know, it tickles me. I now have 7 grandchildren. I got an old 30-year-old boat, and I take them up the river here, and we see the herons, and we see the wildlife this year. I remember, I think when I became governor, we had about 4 nesting pairs, Sean, of eagles. Today, the eagles are off the endangered. We have just made terrific progress, and I'm really anxious to see how their bulkhead project, we're putting bags along the river so that fish could propagate here, and it's a new idea, and we put money into it for this last 3-year period, Julius, and it's got to be working because you got more fish. In fact, some of you remember when I knew the river was getting better, we had a police officer that had parked his car, and we caught him fishing. and I thought to myself, he knows something that I don't know. But that could happen today, right here. And I'm out at Euclid Creek, and I go fishing for steelhead at Euclid Creek. I remember that creek was awful. And all of you that are connected with these various groups, you know, the Trip Area group, you're doing a great job. You're cleaning up. You're bringing people's attention to what's happening there. Your watchdogs, if you see any kind of a spill or something like that, immediately they report it to Julius, don't they, Julius? Yeah.
All the good things they say about the senator and his sponsorship of Great Lakes efforts and funding and collaboration and coordination won't happen without leadership in Washington from people like Senator George Voinovich. And we want to thank him for being one of our champions as just a citizen of this city.
I also want to recognize the close working relationship of of Ohio EPA and the Cuyahoga RAP Coordinating Committee as a model of effective action on the AOCs. That type of collaborative working relationship is what really makes these wonderful stories of progress in our environment happen. And finally, I want to congratulate the stakeholders for the very thorough and rigorous process you've used to collect and review ecosystem data. Your work really is the key to continuing to make improvements in the environment. EPA is pleased to acknowledge that the data meets or exceeds established criteria for delisting. As the Cuyahoga served as a catalyst for action 40 years ago, once again, the river is a hallmark for the country as it demonstrates restoration of urban rivers is truly achievable. We all know that success builds momentum, and that momentum will bring us more restoration and more clean streams in Northeast Ohio as well as the nation.
It's only been 40 years. I say only because the river itself is 12,000 years old. And Settlers Landing is a sample, as Josh mentioned, of about 200 years of urbanization that has happened. And so all the things that have happened that hurt the river have happened in the last couple centuries. And the recovery has been well underway in the last 40. And so we know as we go forward there'll be a lot more recovery yet to come. Now they mentioned the RAP, the Remedial Action Plan, and I want to point out it's just a plan. It's our role as the Cuyahoga River Coordinating Committee where we assemble the stakeholders, where we agree on the problems. We set the recovery standards in concert with EPA and with the Ohio EPA. We encourage the restoration efforts, and we monitor and report the results to the community and to the scientific leaders that we have with our agency. But today, we want to say, well, how did we get 40 years down the road and have so much recovery in this Cuyahoga River? And even though we celebrated earlier the action of a bunch of citizens and individuals for their leadership, ultimately it gets down to big institutions and big investments and big collaboration efforts that led to the Cuyahoga River's recovery.
The progress that we're celebrating here today really can't be attributed to one company or one institution. You know, today's event recognizes the collaboration among many river stakeholders, industry, government, community groups, who all share a common goal to protect this critical natural resource that we have.
This Cuyahoga River is the centerpiece of the park. As Jim mentioned, it's the green lungs of the Cuyahoga River for 20 miles. It's a beautiful, beautiful resource. And I think one of the most important things about the national park is that it has brought the public to the river. This river was largely ignored for a long, long time, and kind of the back door and cesspool of Northeast Ohio, and that's all changed. Cuyahoga Valley National Park now has over 2 million people a year on the canal towpath, and through the efforts to establish the Ohio and Erie Canalway, which will extend from the lakefront here in Cleveland all the way south through Akron, Massillon, Canton to Dover and New Philadelphia, Ohio, we'll have a 101-mile green corridor connecting the cities of our region to the lakefront.
The great thing about today is we are celebrating some of the good news, and we don't get a chance to do that very often. Environmental protection, as everybody here knows, it's hard, it's controversial, it's challenging, and as so many speakers have pointed out, it's very expensive.
But this one really grabbed the public's attention, and I can tell you that 2 years later, when I went away to Boston for college, when I said I was from the Cleveland area, they would ask oh, that's the place where the river caught on fire. That's what we were known as. It didn't matter all the other great things, the first that had happened in Cleveland, in Cuyahoga County, in Northeast Ohio, that's what we were remembered for. Well, I'm somebody who's an eternal optimist, so I believe that with every cumulus cloud, there's always a silver lining. And so the silver lining from that day when the river caught on fire was what we see today, where the boaters and the recreational boaters have returned and are now enjoying the Cuyahoga River. So we can kind of be Exhibit A when we talk about the resiliency that a community and that a lake and that a river can enjoy. We're only at a 1 milepost along this grand journey. We've done some magnificent things, achieved some magnificent things over the last 40 years, but make no mistake about it, more work remains to be done. I have 3 children, and my daughter, Leah, will be heading off to college in about a year. And she wants to be an environmental scientist. Oh, that's a good thing. And knowing my daughter, she's going to achieve it. But she's ready to come back in 4 years and to lead this ongoing crusade in charge, to make sure that the river and the lake are fully restored. And in the words of David Beach, that we do indeed have a green city on the Blue Lake, and I know we're all up to that challenge. God bless you, and thank everyone here who made this day possible.